we have team coverage for you, starting with meteorologist Mike Seidel in Vero Beach, Florida. Mike.
Hey, good morning, or good afternoon, I should say, from Vero Beach, Florida. We're out here this morning. We're back out here this evening, and not much has changed. The surf continues to ramp up. We'll talk to the city manager in just a few minutes and find out what they're doing in preparation for Nicole's arrival and the worst of the weather late tomorrow night and early Thursday morning. Mike?
Thank you so much, Mike.
All right, we want to get out to our meteorologist, Mike Seidel. He is in Vero Beach. And, Mike, we know that you folks expected to get all the impacts already. We can see some of that wave action back behind you.
And, Jackie, we've had that wave action since Sunday. We've had this onshore northeast wind now. This is day 3, and we're going to have this until early Thursday morning. Once the storm goes by, we'll go offshore. Let's bring in Monty Falls, who's the city manager here in Vero Beach. And let's talk first about what you have done here on the beaches and in town ahead of the arrival of Nicole's worst weather later tomorrow.
Yeah, Mike, we've had our crews out the last couple days securing all the things on the beach, lifeguard towers, blocking off the stairways down to the beach because we are going to have more beach erosion. You can see we've already experienced some. We don't want people to go down those stairways and it be unsafe. We've also had in our flood-prone areas and some of our water plants and sewer plants, flood panels being put up. We've exercised all of our generators, got all of our fuel supplies topped off. So, you know, we're ready to go. Hopefully this is just the event that we think it's going to be with a Category 1. We've been through those before, and, you know, hope it's gone in a couple of days.
And by far, the #1 impact is going to be on the beaches. And talk a little bit about the erosion, because I saw a picture of the beach back in the summer of 2021, and there was an actual beach here.
Yes, we're very prone to beach erosion here in this area and further to the north, but we did have a lot more beach back then. There was a dune restoration project that did that, but we experienced some erosion of the dune and Ian, and some of the beach profile built back up, but the escarpment was still there. So we still have some, you know, some protection of our infrastructure. Hopefully it holds up.
And the big question, the bridge. A lot of folks work over here, like at the restaurant next door, and they were asking me, and I said, I think the bridge will probably shut down for a while tomorrow night and Thursday.
Yeah, we keep the bridges open until we have 45-mile-an-hour sustained winds, or it's really at the discretion of the officers that are there. We want to make sure that high-profile vehicles, ambulances, you know, those kind of things aren't in danger coming across. So 45 miles an hour is our target number.
Well, it brings up the question, if there's an emergency and they need to get an ambulance, they'll let them through?
They will always let them through, and the police would come over with them and escort them.
And the fire department. And what about, the last question I was going to ask you, what about the situation with evacuations here and also across Indian River County?
There's no mandatory evacuation. We've discussed a voluntary. I think that's going to come out later this evening. I think people have to use their best judgment to see what they, you know, what kind of property they're in. Naturally, if you're closer to the beach, you might want to move back away. But the whole barrier island is going to have as I understand it, a voluntary evacuation.
Okay. City Manager, Monty Falls. I love that name. It's a great name.
Thanks, Mike.
Reminds me of Frostbite Falls. You know, Bullwinkle.
Pleasure being with you.
Yeah, I appreciate you watching for so many years.
Yeah.
Again, look at the surf out here, just rolling in, and the next high tide is at 7:30. This morning's high tide came right up to the concrete wall, so we're going to get more sand away from the coast, Jackie, and we have this high tide and 2 high tides tomorrow to be concerned with. As Nicole comes in, the tide will be going out, low tide Thursday morning, 2:18 a.m., so we're confident it's going to kind of sink up, and that'll save us at least 1 or 2 feet of water rise here on the coast in Vero Beach and Indian River County.
Quite a few cycles to go. Thanks so much for that report, meteorologist Mike Seidel, live in Vero Beach, Florida.
That we know one vulnerable location could be Vero Beach, Florida. Meteorologist Mike Seidel is there for us right now. Mike, you were there this morning showing us how much the water came up with high tide. Another high tide this evening, and we may go through multiple high tide cycles. Just how much damage you think Nicole could cause to the beaches there?
A lot more damage, and they don't have a lot of beach left because of Ian. They had some issues there in previous storms. This is where the dune was and the sea oats, and that's pretty much gone. We have the concrete wall, concrete footings, and then the water would go up in front of this hotel. We've got a storm surge warning of 3 to 5 feet. Next high tide is about 7:30, so we're a couple of hours away from the next high tide, and I can guarantee you the water is going to be lapping up to the wall. Each high tide, the water's been higher and higher. We have 2 more high tides tomorrow. Nicole comes in late tomorrow night, early Thursday morning, and pretty much will coincide at this point with the low tide here at 2:18 a.m., and that should save us a foot to a foot and a half, maybe even 2 feet of water rise if that pans out. By the way, speaking of travel interruptions, Orlando International Airport shuts down at 4 tomorrow. No more operations, no more flight operations. Melbourne will throw in the towel tomorrow at 2 p.m., and they'll reopen both airports when it's safe to do so, maybe late Thursday. And if you're taking Amtrak and you're traveling through Florida or supposed to on a train tomorrow, Thursday, even into Friday, there's been a lot of cancellations, even in the auto train, and trains coming north or going south or going north or stopping in Jacksonville. So a lot of impacts with Nicole. We'll keep you updated as the surf rolls in this evening. High tide in about 2 hours and more beach erosion right on through Thursday morning. Next update from the Hurricane Center comes up at 7 p.m. Eastern. Good evening, I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel. There are your hurricane warnings, your tropical storm warnings and watches. Over on the west coast, we got the watches. Here on the east coast, yes, the hurricane warning issued this afternoon, and we are geared up for what will likely become a Category 1 Nicole. Hurricane Nicole. It is now a full-fledged tropical storm, winds of 65 miles an hour, so it's not much below hurricane status. And with that said, another high tide here in Vero Beach, coming in about an hour and a half at 7:30. Water's already coming up here, and will continue like it did at this morning to chop away at what's left of this dune. You can see there's not much width here, maybe about 8 or 9 feet. So we're going to lose more of what dune we have, more beach erosion. Also 2 high tide cycles tomorrow in the morning and in the evening. And then as Nicole makes landfall later tomorrow night, give or take an hour or so around midnight Eastern, we're going to have the tide going out, Jackie. Low tide 2:18 a.m. That's the saving grace for at least some of the water rise. We've got the storm surge warning with a 3 to 5 foot rise expected at this point. And basically anywhere from the north of the landfall, Jackie, all the way up into Georgia and South Carolina, we will have some kind of storm surge. Various values. We'll keep you updated through this evening right here from Vero Beach. And now another little quick shower comes through. They're lasting about 3 or 4 minutes, Jackie. The longer, more substantial squalls hit here tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, and Thursday morning.
Yep, heavy downpours and tornado threat with that too, Mike. Thanks so much for that live report.
We have team coverage for you, starting with meteorologist Mike Seidel in Vero Beach. Mike.
Good evening, Mike, and the tide is coming in once again. We just had a wave go up to the dune, what's left of it, and we're still an hour and a half from high tide. So each high tide is higher, and we've got a long way to go as the winds really freshen up here this evening. The worst of the weather coming up. We'll tell you when it hits and what we can expect here on the Treasure Coast. Mike and Jackie.
Thanks, Mike. We'll check in with you in just a second. Meteorologist Mike Seidel is live in Vero Beach, Florida right now, where a hurricane warning and a storm surge warning are in effect. Joining us for a closer look at the impacts. Of course, that sun going down earlier and earlier, so things are dark already, Mike, and those waves are starting to pick up.
Now, the waves have been up since Sunday, slowly rising. The buoy, I've been watching closely off Cape Canaveral now, 17.4 feet. This time yesterday, they were running about half that, about 9 feet. So the swell is propagating in the waves, moving away from Nicole, coming towards the coast. You can see the surf behind me. We've got it lit up the best we can, and it's dangerous. Rip currents. Nobody was in the water today, at least over their ankles, because of the situation. Water's warm, 81, and that's certainly helping to keep Nicole in the intensity forecast that we're expecting, up into a minimum Category 1 hurricane. Now, the big issue here and on most of the east coast of Florida will not be the rain, it will be the surge and the beach erosion and the coastal flooding. I want to show you this morning, this is after high tide this morning, and look at the beach erosion in this time lapse. The waves coming up and eating the sand away up against the concrete barrier in front of the hotel, and this is a continuing problem until we get get the offshore wind. So we have this high tide at 7:30 Eastern. Then we have 2 more tomorrow. Fortunately, Nicole timing out to come in tomorrow night late, give or take an hour or so around midnight Eastern, as the low tide approaches at 2:18 a.m. Winds will gust up here 60, 70 miles an hour. That could knock out some power. Rainfall, maybe some localized flash flooding. And there are no mandatory evacuations here in Indian River County. We have those south of us, Martin and Palm Beach County zones A and B. That's primarily campers, mobile homes, low-lying areas, areas that are vulnerable to flooding. But here, they're likely going to issue a voluntary evacuation here in Indian River County. Shelters opening up for the special services. There's another one for pets and another one for the general public. And Jackie, we're seeing that kind of setup across many of these coastal counties. Many of these shelters do not open until 7 a.m. on Wednesday. The timing here, though, tomorrow late afternoon through early Thursday morning, the strongest winds, the highest surge, the warning up for a 3 to 5 foot surge here in Vero Beach.
And Mike, you mentioned the surge being a big issue here. A lot of that has to do with the large wind field that we have of Nicole. So let's talk a little bit about the winds. Then Mike Bettis is going to get in on the surge. Thanks so much, Mike Seidel.
One of the vulnerable locations could be Vero Beach, Florida. Meteorologist Mike Seidel is there. Mike, we're going to be in this for a while with expected landfall late tomorrow night. You've already shown us just how vulnerable that beach can be. There's not much beach left.
The beach is getting hammered, Mike. Again, high tide here in an hour, and we're already seeing the water right up to the steps here coming onto Vero Beach. Here comes another wave. So each high tide is higher. And one of the big questions with the locals and even the visitors, tourists, is the bridge going from here, from the barrier island over to the mainland across the Intracoastal. And we talked to the Vero Beach city manager earlier about what they plan to do as the winds pick up as Nicole approaches later tomorrow.
Yeah, we keep the bridges open until we have 45-mile-an-hour sustained winds, or it's really at the discretion of the officers that are there. We want to make sure that high-profile vehicles, ambulances, those kind of things aren't in danger coming across. So 45 miles an hour is our target number.
And the good thing is the winds are not going to last very long at that speed, so I figure they may close it tomorrow evening and then reopen it sometime mid-morning on Thursday. Surf coming in, this is what's left of the precious dune in front of the hotel, the concrete wall. We've got a concrete footing in front of it, but already water getting under this concrete wall. And we've got a long way to go. 2 more high tide cycles after this one before Nicole makes landfall with a big push of water later tomorrow night and early Thursday morning. We've got coverage up and down the coast continuing through tonight and all day tomorrow, and tomorrow night will be on all night Wednesday night and Thursday.
Meteorologist Mike Seidel is live in Vero Beach, where a hurricane warning and a storm surge warning are both in effect, and joining us live there now. And you've already been seeing quite a bit of wave action today, Mike.
Yeah, well, the waves have been up since Sunday. They have ramped up slowly over the past couple of days. That's one of the issues. This northeast wind has been blowing. This is day 3, and we still have to get through the thrust of Nicole, which will likely be a minimal hurricane before it makes landfall just south of here tomorrow night, give or take an hour or 2 around midnight. But look at the wave action and the water coming all the way up to the seawall here. The dune is pretty much gone. They've lost a lot of beach. I saw pictures from the summer before last, and the beach extended way, way out. So they did lose some sand from Ian, even though they had primarily an offshore wind. Look at this piece of giant, looks like driftwood that just rolled up. And this thing is not light. It's pretty heavy. That's got some cool barnacles on it. That's kind of neat. Never know what's going to roll up in the ocean. They are prepared. We talked to the city manager earlier, Monty Falls, and he gave us a rundown of what they've done and what they're expecting to do, and also talked a little bit about the beach erosion.
Yeah, Mike, we've had our crews out the last couple days securing all the things on the beach, lifeguard towers, blocking off the stairways down to the beach, because we are going to have more beach erosion. You can see we've already experienced some. We don't want people to go down those stairways and it be unsafe. We've also had in our flood-prone areas in some of our water plants and sewer plants, flood panels being put up. We've exercised all of our generators, got all of our fuel supplies topped off. So, we're ready to go. Hopefully this is just the event that we think it's going to be with a Category 1. We've been through those before, and hope it's gone in a couple of days.
And he told us that they will likely issue a voluntary evacuation order, not a mandatory here in Indian River County. Surf continues to come up, high tide in about 30 minutes, and this was not visible this morning. So we've eroded under the concrete wall. There's a big concrete abutment in front of it, so it's pretty sturdy, but I wouldn't be surprised that tomorrow night, certainly mid-evening, that some of the water laps over this. But the key here is low tide is at 2:18 a.m. Thursday morning. We're expecting landfall an hour or so before that, so that's going to help us out. Jackie, the tidal range right now, because of the full moon, is 4 feet. From low tide to high tide, 4 feet. And if we can knock a couple of feet off that, that would be a big help here. We've got the storm surge warning for a 3 to 5 foot surge from the Hurricane Center. And we'll be here to show it to you live tomorrow night right here on the Weather Channel. Jackie?
Yeah, that's good timing. We like to hear that. At least down a little bit would be helpful. Thanks, Mike.
To Florida now, to Vero Beach with meteorologist Mike Seidel. Mike, one of the attractions of Florida, no doubt, it's beautiful beaches, but those beaches are disappearing pretty quickly. You okay?
And look what just rolled. Yeah, this just rolled in. So you got to be really careful. Some of these waves are coming in, so just be careful. There's debris in the water, and that just kind of hit my ankle. I'm okay, but kind of startled me. Let's talk about the surf. It's coming on up. High tide is right now. We still have 2 more tomorrow to be concerned with, and the water gets higher and higher each high tide. Right now, we're losing more beach, more dune. We do have a concrete wall up here. It's pretty strong with concrete underneath, so I'm not worried about water getting into properties, but the beaches have been decimated. This is the 3rd day. Tomorrow's going to be day 4, and until Nicole goes by us early Thursday morning and the winds go offshore, we're going to have this push of water. It's just unrelenting. There's the surf tonight, breaking way, way out. These are 7 to 8 footers. The buoy off Cape Canaveral, they've been measured as high as 17.5 feet. We have a long way to go all day tomorrow and tomorrow night, and then we're going to throw rain into the mix. Flood watches cover the entire east coast of Florida. That's going to be part of the inland impact with Nicole. Next advisory from the Hurricane Center at 10 p.m. Eastern. We are back live here at the beach on the east coast of Florida. This is Indian River County. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel, and this is Vero Beach, and the surf has been coming way up. Ahead of Nicole, we have hurricane warnings up for this part of the coast, the Treasure Coast, Melbourne, the Space Coast, and all the way down through Indian River here, Martin County, just to the Palm Beach County line. The 3 counties on South Florida, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, and Broward, tropical storm warnings. And look at those tropical storm watches. They go all the way up to Charleston, South Carolina. That's because this storm is huge. The wind field's huge. And we're going to start feeling tropical storm force conditions here before sunrise tomorrow morning. The real impacts here, the beaches, they've already been hit hard. This is the 3rd day of this, and the waves have gotten higher each day. The winds have been pretty steady, 20, 25 miles an hour. They really haven't ramped up. They've just been steady and strong. But Jackie, as Nicole approaches tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night, that's when we could get gusts over 70 miles an hour. That raises concern of some power outages. But 2 more high tides. When Nicole comes in tomorrow night, the tide will be heading out. Low tide at 2:18 Thursday morning. So that's one positive aspect of the timing, because tides are running a little bit more than 1.5 to 2 feet above average because of the full moon last night. So there you go, Jackie. Beach impacts by far number 1. Inland, watch out for some localized flooding. Flood watches up for the entire east coast of Florida.
Always looking for that silver lining, Mike. Certainly appreciate it.
Of course, we have live team coverage for you. We begin with meteorologist Mike Seidel in Vero Beach, Florida. Mike.
Hello, Mike and Jackie on the beach as the tide is high and the waves are coming all the way up to the seawall, up to the steps here. We're under a hurricane warning. We'll time it out for you and let you know when the worst of the weather hits here on the Treasure Coast of Florida on Wednesday.
Thanks so much, Mike. Looking forward to that.
Let's get you to Florida right now. Meteorologist Mike Seidel in Vero Beach, where Mike, high tide this evening, and you saw a lot of water come up. There'll be all kinds of debris and all kinds of issues we'll see at the beaches here on the East Coast over the next, say, 2 days.
Yes, indeed, and it's a broad circulation, so it's not just a small area like typically with a tropical storm or hurricane. It's a huge area from South Florida all the way up to South Carolina. We've got tropical storm watches as far north as Charleston. The big concern is right out here, the city of Vero Beach. They're worried about the impacts right here on the coast.
Yes, we're very prone to beach erosion here in this area and further to the north, but we did have a lot more beach back then. There was a dune restoration project that did that, but we experienced some erosion of the dune in Ian, and some of the beach profile built back up, but the escarpment was still there. So we still have some protection of our infrastructure. Hopefully it holds up.
And this wave that just came in is the strongest one we've seen all the way up over the seawall. As a result, more sand is going out. I mean, it's just in and out. Beach erosion continues, and we've got another 24 plus hours of this. It's been going on like this since Sunday, but rougher now. The surf is up more, and the tides are increasingly higher and higher. We're about 30 minutes past high tide, Jackie. 2 more high tides tomorrow, and tomorrow night when we're on, as Nicole makes landfall, the tide will be going out. We will not be standing here likely. We'll be up elevated at a safe location. But boy, the winds will ramp up tomorrow. Right now, the winds are still running about 20 to 25 sustained, and we've seen that since Sunday afternoon. So that really hasn't changed yet, but it will change as Nicole draws closer. Jackie?
Yeah, we're seeing some of those tropical storm force wind gusts not too far off the coast on some of the buoys already, Mike. Thanks so much for that.